Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to a special edition, if you will, a lecture on how to do your midterm essay project. And I know that depending upon whether you're in the online criminal law course or the online introduction to criminal justice, this will serve kind of as an outline to help you understand how to format your essay, how to do some of the in-text citing, and also we'll be covering references, and I have a couple of samples to show you as well. So hopefully this next 30 minutes will be very informative and you'll take away some really good information. So the best way to start is to go through what I found to be a very informative PowerPoint, if you will. And I know that, yes, it's a PowerPoint, but at the same time, this really does kind of give you some good information. So the first thing that we need to really remember is to cite sources for support and to also avoid plagiarism. And everybody, I think, knows what that word means. So, you need to make sure that you give credit appropriately to those that have written whatever research or information that you're going to be putting into your essay. It also helps advance the knowledge base, but even more so, and I don't think that we look at this a lot of times, is that it will make research easier for future scholars, meaning that if somebody else gets a hold of your paper and you have very good references or information in there, then they can read that, take the references that you have, and if they didn't have that information, they could go find it and they would know where to go find it. So it will make future research easier by listing sources of where you obtained your information from. So enough said on that. Please be sure to look at the syllabus for your course to make sure that you know exactly what the topic is and the format of the paper and other things like that. So why APA? Why do we specifically use APA? Well, APA style is the most commonly used to cite sources within the social sciences, and you can see the list of some of them here. But where it's going to be important for you, as you can see down on the left there, law and criminology, and that's where we fall into, and therefore we are going to use the APA sources. Now, when do I cite sources? Well, here's a couple of examples to help you kind of figure out when to cite. So the first time would be, let's say, a direct quotation. So a paraphrase, or maybe you're going to summarize some information. So here are three different ways to look at it. So we'll start with the first one, direct quotation, and you can see they have the author and then the year of the publication, and I'll just kind of read it so you can get an idea. So Schroep, and then you have 2009 reports that subjects in the study, quote, should have been fully informed of the possible negative effects, end quote, page 253. And one thing that you'll start to see as we go through a lot of this information today is that, typically for an in-text citation, you need like the author and then the year of the publication. However, when you're taking quotes, you're going to need a page number, and that would be the proper way to do it. So here's a paraphrase, and you can see the example for yourself, so I'm not going to read on that, and also to summarize some information, and you can see the different ways or formats that's being used here. And if you don't know what a direct quote is, well, let me help you out. A direct quotation is a group of words or sentences that you copy word for word and use part of your essay. Now, again, it's okay, we do this, and I know that there are some English teachers out there that are going to go crazy because I'm going to say this, but you can take direct information from a paper, but please, again, what it's telling you here is to make sure you quote it because you want to give credit, again, where credit is due. So let's look at the example that's here. So, quote, the scientific method has well-known and important advantages, end quote, and you can see the author, the year, and then the page number. That would be a proper example for a direct quotation. A summary, if your source is unnecessarily detailed, you may want to put the information entirely into your own words, and you can see an example that's listed at the bottom of the slide here with the author and the year as well, so you can summarize. And then a paraphrase is basically restating a section of text into your own words. And the length and the sentence structure will be very similar to the original, which again is one other, another reason that you need to make sure that you cite appropriately. So here, now we're at the stage of where a lot of students tend to kind of miss the bus, if you will. And that is where we're talking about in-text citations. And I've seen a lot of essays come through and research papers come through where the student has put the reference page at the end and actually has done a pretty good job with the structure and format of the references. However, they forget to cite that information in the text or the body of the narrative of the essay. And I'll show you a couple of examples later on as we get into some example papers that I'll let you take a look at. So 3 components of in-text citations would be the author's last names, the year source was published, and the page number, of course, if you're using direct quotations. So here would be a couple of examples of in-text citations. So you can see here the author, Werner, 2009, noted that interviews are very common when conducting research. So here's another one with a quotation. Werner, 2009, noted that, quote, the most common form of interview is the person-to-person encounter, end quote, page 71. Or you can do it the third way here. Consider that, quote, the most common form of interview is the person-to-person encounter, end quote. And then you can see Werner, 2009, page 71, because it is a quote that you're using. So those are a couple of in-text examples. Here would be a couple of additional ones where you might have multiple authors, not just one. You may have 2. So same order, if you will, but you can see here you have more than one author. And then here would be just another in-text example as well. You can also use block format when it comes to in-text citations. Most people don't tend to do this when it's a very small research paper that you'll be doing. However, this is another example of how you can do what they call a block format. Now, why in-text citations, I guess? Well, in-text citations, signal phrases that I'm going to kind of show you here that help blend your sources, use active and past tense verbs. So some examples of how to kind of lead in, if you will. Sorry. So again, that blending your source. So let's look at some examples here. It has been reported that, according to, and then you can put the person's name. A recent study suggests, several researchers note that, many findings point to the fact that. So here's just a couple of examples that you can use that'll help you kind of blend that information in there. Moving on, we'll look at a sample title page. And again, I don't expect everything to be perfect. I just want you to give it your best effort. So this is kind of what a page might look like in an APA format. You can see that there's a running header at the top. Try to center in the middle of the paper the bulk of information that you see here. So double spaced, full title centered in the middle of the page. And I'll show you an example of an essay in a few minutes. And then the first page of the APA body, when you get into the text part, you can see that they still have the header at the top. And then the full title is centered. And then it's got the margins, of course, on both sides. And it's all double spaced. One thing of note that you're not going to see big gaps in between the header here or big gaps in between the full title to where the actual text starts for your essay. It's all going to be double spaced. Now, in order to help you with your reference pages, and then we'll be done with this part. See, it didn't take that long. We're going to look at reference page entries, and first of all, you need to determine the nature of the source of what you want to cite. So where are you going to get your information from? Is it going to be a book, a journal, a magazine, a website, which a lot of you, I'm sure, will look at, online articles, newspapers, personal communications, or something different? Well, here's a couple of different examples, and what we've done here is to kind of color code it to make it where you can easily pick out what part of that reference is what. And here's the example. So if you look at number 1, okay, and again, this you'll get this in a minute. So you have the number one author is in blue. Well, if you look up at the top, you can see the name of the author. So it's the last name and first initial. You can use the last name and the first name, but typically you'll see the last name and the first initial. So you can see that that's in blue. So we're going to build a reference from a book entry. So that's where we're at right now. You can look at number 2, date of publication. You can see it's in the red, so you know exactly where that goes. Number 3, title of the book in the gray. So you have the title there. Number 4, the city of publisher, which is in kind of the purple color, and then in that kind of gold color at the end, number 5 would be the publisher. So hopefully that really does help you kind of break it down using this color coding, where you can see which piece goes where, if you will, when you start to build a citation. So here's an example of the same thing, color coded, if you were to use an entry for a journal article. So these are references again we're talking about. Chapter from an edited book, and here's an internet site, one that you would probably use and a lot of you will use. So you can see number 1 in blue, the title of the internet site. Number 2, the date of publication in red. If there's no date, then it's ND. You can see the kind of gray, the date you accessed the site, meaning the date that you went or you retrieved it. So you can see how it's worded there, retrieved October 6, 2007. And then finally, the URL or from where, like what's the website address, the internet site address that you got it from. And here it's www.ecology.com. So you can see how that goes together. Now, a special case, and maybe some of your English professors won't really go along with me on this, but I'm hoping that they will. But from what I've seen through APA, personal communication, such as personal interviews, really don't have a solid kind of entry in a reference list. Now, to cite an in-text communication or email or any type of other communication, the best way to do it is by clarifying the person's name, the type of communication it is, and then the date. So this is a very simple way to do it. This is fine with me. I have no problem with exactly the way that this is going to be. So you can see if you're doing a personal interview, let's say of a police officer from an AJ 102 course, which sometimes that's what the essay might be, then you can see Smith E, which last name, first initial, personal interview, and then the date of the interview. So that makes it very, very simple, I think, and there you have it. So here's a couple of sample reference pages that we're going to show you here that you can see just kind of how it's laid out. So there are a couple of different ones, from internet site ones to articles. Some helpful hints. So, check the index or the table of contents of the APA manual or your grammar handbook, because I know that all of you are super prepared and you have the latest edition or version of the APA manual. Of course you do. Next would be to consult the Writing Center at MSJC. So there are lots of people there ready and willing to help you with your research paper or any writing assignment or any English paper for that matter. So if you need some help, please go see them, and they will be more than happy to help you be successful when it comes to your writing. You can also look at the online writing lab at OWL of Purdue University at the following address, and I've got the website address there. And then, to kind of sum it all up, follow the general logic of APA styles, if you get stuck. So just kind of think of it logically, and you can and do the best you can and follow that information. A couple of additional resources that are listed here. If you go to the Purdue Online Writing Lab, and again, the link is there, you can see this is what it looks like. And if you look to the left in the navigation bar there, you can see research and citation, APA style, APA overview, formatting and guide, in-text citations, and all the different rules and things that go along with writing. And that also, this website isn't just for APA. There are other things that you can get there too. So, but anyway, great site to go to provide, information. And the next slide that you're going to see very quickly is a basic writing rubric. Don't be afraid of this, but it's good to take a look at it. And this kind of outlines what I am looking for in 5 different categories, if you will, when it comes to your paper. Now, typically for the online class, your essay will be worth 30 points. If you're in a face-to-face, it's 50 points. So there's a different rubric, but the same criteria areas right there. So if you look on the left here, you can see appropriate format, writing skills, grammar, spelling, etc. You can see development, content, and then references, and then the points that are pretty much attributed to either one depending upon how well you do. So 1 or 2 points, which would be in the second column on the left-hand side, you can see kind of the requirements of what I'm looking at, and then 6 points would be all the way to the right, where it says paper consistently and accurately adheres to all style and formatting requirements, etc. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. Now, all of these areas are very important, but the one that is most important, especially to me, would be the content area, where we want to make sure that whatever you're doing, whatever research you're writing, contains the appropriate quality and quantity of well thought out ideas and support to address whatever topic it is that you're writing about. And that's just kind of an overview very quickly of what it is. So kind of moving on, I want to show you a couple other things really quick, and then we'll be out of here. I put a paper in to kind of help you understand how to write a paper. And here is a paper that was not written by myself, but it is a great example of how to write an APA paper. And it kind of outlines some of the things. So I'm going to kind of go through this very, very quickly, and you can kind of take a look at it and see kind of how the format is. So you can see, APA, you've got your title page, and here the title would be dealing with major and minor APA confusion. You have the department course, your name, your first and last name, the college, my name, and the date if you want to put it on there. Now, the second page on here would be what they call an abstract, and you can see it has a running header at the top, which is very typical for APA. I'm not going to basically mandate that you provide an abstract, but APA says that you should have an abstract of the information, and I'll tell you in a second what an abstract is. You will definitely receive a higher credit and points, if you will, if you do provide an abstract, and it's something that can be very, very small, and I'll show you that. So very quickly, an abstract is a brief summary of the contents of the written article. And most journals, scholarly papers, if you will, require an abstract, and students should consult the instructor, on the guidelines of how they want that. Now, a well-prepared abstract can really be the most important paragraph in any article, because this is the first contact, if you will, that people are going to have with the article. And by putting in key phrases and key words, the readers have a better understanding for the overall direction and goal of the article that you're reading. So it can be something very, very short, and I'll show you what I mean in a moment. So here's this paper, the abstract that this author put. Then you can see we're going to start into the text. So you have the running header right here. You have the title of the paper right here. So I'm just going to kind of highlight so you can sort of see it. And then you're going to see where we're going to start the paper. Now, notice again, and we went over this last time, that there's not, a bunch of spaces in between here, like 7 or 8, like the title's way up here. It's just double spaced. So you put your title in, and then you're going to double space. Make sure that you indent on your paragraphs. Don't have 3 solid pages of text that looks like a big block, and there's no indenting or forming things into paragraphs, so we can kind of understand what it is that you're trying to say and make a better read for myself. It's the proper thing to do. So that's just kind of an outline, and you can see some of the references that are listed at the back here on different types. And again, reading this, it'll take you 15 minutes to read this, if not less, and it will provide you with some really good information on issues related to an APA. Now, the last thing I want to show you is a paper that was written by a student, and I don't believe the student has a problem with me showing this paper. They let me use it to kind of use as a model before, so therefore I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now this paper was from a criminal evidence class, and basically had it was a case law on the legality of a search using a drug dog. Now, that's all I'm going to tell you, because I'm going to show you the abstract that was written, and I think you'll be able to start to pick out what the paper's all about. So you can see the student's running header at the top up here. Oops. And then you go down here. The student decided to put a title on there, which is fine. Her name, the class, my name spelled correctly, which is always awesome, and the date. So there we go. Now, here is the student's abstract, which is on the same piece, on the same page as the phase page. Now, typically you should put it on a different page, but I'm fine with you putting it on the same page. If you want to save a little bit of paper or what have you, as long as you put the abstract there, I know. So let's read the abstract, and then and I'll kind of show you the importance of it. So, Florida Supreme Court is faced with analyzing the credibility of canines' senses. When Officer Wheatley conducts a routine traffic stop and his canine Aldo alerts to his senses acquired through training, the officer believes he has probable cause to make an arrest. However, this case questions the reliability of the evidence. And then over, at the very end here, thankfully, Wheatley, the officer, and Aldo, the canine, have the paperwork and training logs to support their claims. So let's back up and let's kind of ask the question, what is this case really about? Well, it starts off with Florida Supreme Court is faced with analyzing the credibility of a canine senses, their sense of smell. And when Officer Wheatley does this traffic stop, and his canine, using his senses, his sense of smell, alerts to something illegal that he has learned to do through training, the officer thinks that they have, hey, great, we can make an arrest on this now. I have probable cause to arrest because my well-trained dog says that I can do that. And now, however, there obviously was a question on whether or not the sniff, the dog sniff, if you will, to find the evidence was legal. And if that sniff did, in fact, give the officer probable cause. And then you can kind of figure out what happens here. Well, there must have been a question about paperwork and logs and training to support their claim that the dog was well trained. So hopefully that all makes sense. But this is, see how short that is? But really, when you read between the lines there, you can pick out what this research paper is all about. So we're not going to read the rest of the whole thing, but you can see here the student has the running header at the top, and then they're starting off with their essay. And then I just wanted to show you one thing. You can look right here when you're talking about in-text citations, okay, meaning in the text, not the references. Okay, this is the in-text citation that obviously references the reference on the last page. So here we can look, we'll back up again to where it says approaching the truck, so it's just a couple lines above that. Notice one thing though, so quote, approaching the truck, the officer noticed that the defendant was shaking, breathing fast, appeared to be agitated. He also noticed an open beer container in the vehicle's cup holder, end quote. He's got the reference of Gallagher 2012. Okay, so this is what an in-text citation looks like. Now, because it was a quote, okay, I'm not trying to harp on the student even because this was a fabulous paper, but what are they missing? Because it was a quote, there really should have been a page number, but that's okay. I mean, in the grand scheme, we got the quote, we got the reference, and we know where things are coming from. So we'll move down a little bit further. You can see there's another reference, Florida versus Harris, a reference in there. And we can go on down here. There's another one, reasonable, prudent, person defined, no date. So it was something that was pulled off that didn't have a date. And so you can see the text finishes. She gets all the way done. The student does put her opinion in there, which is great because I really appreciate the opinion part. So if you thought that this case was great, or you look at the findings and you agree with the court, you should tell me why. And if you looked at this case and you don't agree with the court, tell me why. Don't just say, yes, I agree, or no, I don't. Give me some of your thoughts on things like that, and that's typically what I'm really looking for. And then at the end here, you still have the running header, you still have the reference page here, and you can see her references are listed And obviously, again, just kind of going down here, hopefully you can see this right here, there's no date. So that's okay, but this shows you something retrieved from an internet site, a publication, and then we've got something that actually has kind of a no date on there, which makes it really cool. So hopefully that really does help you kind of get a better understanding about the APA style and kind of what a paper actually looks like and what I'm looking for. Typically, just to kind of end things up, your paper is going to be 3 pages of written text, okay, or a narrative. So you're going to have a face page. You're going to be awesome, and you're going to go ahead and do the abstract. Whether you put the abstract on the face page at the bottom or on a separate page, that's okay. Very short abstract. It'll make things great. And then you're going to have your 3 pages of text and your reference page. Now your face page, your abstract part, and your reference page, that doesn't count towards the 3 pages. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to put anything in the middle. So the expectation is minimum of 3 pages, and it can be as much as you really want it to be. So with that being said, this is just kind of, again, a quick overview on APA referencing, in-text citations, kind of formatting and what the paper should look like. And I hope that you really did learn something from this. So with that being said, that'll be it for now.